just a little recap in the last section. We turned our functional app component over into a class-based component. Now, I've mentioned before, but I'm going to say it again, doing this refactor alone is not going to solve the problem that we have because we still need to get the current position call. And that's going to take some amount of time, right? So in this video, we are going to talk about states in React, and that's the actual system that's going to solve this problem. So why don't we start by talking about states? These are the rules of the state system in React. First, state is only usable with class-based components, which is what we just created one lecture ago. So we've got that. Check. State is a JavaScript object that contains a certain amount of data that is relevant to a singular component. Now, in our case, we would have one state property that is relevant to our app component, and the one that we care about in our app component is the user's current latitude, which we will get out of that position object. We don't actually care about the entire position object. The only one that we care about inside of here is that latitude. So, with the state system, we create a JavaScript object that is going to contain some amount of data that is strictly relevant to our component that we're working on. Okay. Next item. Updating states or updating properties inside this JavaScript object on a component will cause our component to re-render. And that's going to solve one of the issues that we ran into back over there. Now, remember that we want to somehow show our component on the screen when our application first starts up, and then some amount of seconds, when we get the results of geolocation, we will then somehow get our component to render itself and update the content that's showing on the screen. So the key here of getting a component to re-render is to update its states. In other words, if we want to get a single component to update itself, we will update its states. All right. Next, the state must be initialized when a component is first created. So the state is going to contain some amount of information that is relevant to a component. So for this reason, when we first create the component, we have to initialize our state. That makes sense? So the last item is so very important. Again, last but not least, right? A state property can only be updated using the function setState. Now, I know you don't know what the setState is yet, but you can imagine, and I will repeat this line to you again and again because it is the most common error that everybody makes when they start learning React. Well, except for me. But that's why I'm here. So again, what's the most common error? They try to update their state, and they do it in ways that they are used to doing with JavaScript, which is not the right way to do it. So please, remember this line. We're only updating state using the function setState. All right. So I know, with all of these things, it could be a little confusing to you without seeing any code, but we really will do each of the steps over and over again until you understand it one at a time. So, why don't we take a break, and then in the next section, we're going to start to implement state into our app component. I'll see you on the other side.